and welcome to the Daily Space Weather. We're looking at the sun here in colorized magnetogram to demonstrate that there are some structured fields going on. Let me show you one that may have formed into a sunspot. Just as it moved out of view, this area right here, pretty sure I can see some red on that one. There could be an umbra there. It's just out of the view of Earth. It's at a very high latitude, as is this organized area here, as well as some organized areas up here. If you're wondering about the polarity of this situation right here, it is cycle 25 polarity. It looks like the leading field appears to be represented as yellow, which would be the South Pole. Let's look at the 171 angstroms view. Nice. And we see some bright spots. Again, that area down in the northwest could have formed into a sunspot there. The imagery from stereo B is not particularly good anymore. Since that craft experienced a hardware anomaly in 2014, it hasn't been the same since. Otherwise, we'd take a look, but I'm not confident enough that we will actually see anything if we do so. Anyway, we do see some bright spots popping up here. 171 angstroms has to do with ionized iron wavelengths, and this one is the best wavelength at showing magnetic loops, which is why it's my favorite. Not just because it's the prettiest, although it is. We can make these in any color we want. If you view this from the Soho, it'll actually be represented in blue at this wavelength. 10.7 centimeter radio flux is back at 68, I believe down from 69 from yesterday. So a small downtick in the solar radio output. Keep in mind that's just one of many variables associated with what the sun is doing. If you don't understand most of them, you won't have any idea. Here's a view from stereo A. We do see an advancing plasma plume there pointed down the interplanetary magnetic field right underneath my pointer here, as you are located out in this direction. And let's look at more data here. Here's the GOES X-ray imager, and again, we do see some bright spots. My forecast for a sunspot forming soon has not changed. The active region has not fully risen yet. You can see it over here, represented as a bright spot, as well as that area that may have formed into a small sunspot just before it rotated off the Earth-facing portion in the northwest underneath my pointer now. We're going to look at cosmic rays, as we haven't looked at them for a while, and we try to keep you up to date on the holistic approach of cosmology and indeed space weather. There's the Apatity neutron monitor, and you see some pretty wild gyrations and spikes there in the past couple days. I'm not going to get into any conjecture as to what's causing that, as again, I have paper to write. And we saw a giant spike at Barentsburg, check it out, on the 8th. And we saw a big spike on the 8th in various places. Please let us know if you saw people doing very stupid things on those days, as I certainly saw some very dumb behavior around the 8th. Here you see a precipitous uptick at Athens as well on the 8th. We try to cover the real cosmic ray data on this channel, folks, not the fake cosmic ray data where we talk about things that aren't true, such as when the modern cosmic ray maximum is happening, or has happened. And when I say has happened, I mean it's happened. It happened at the last solar minimum, around 2008, 2009. Anyway, here are the cosmic rays from Mexico City. The highest uptick there was actually on the 9th, and you got to think it's probably the same cosmic ray uptick, folks, as this is, what, about 1/3 of the way around the world from where Barentsburg is located. And also we're going to look at Moscow. And there's the Moscow neutron monitor. Please leave a comment if you have any idea of what the point source is of cosmic rays in the northern hemisphere. We're not going to talk southern hemisphere today, but eventually we shall. And you see, let's see, the 8th of September, no big uptick there, but the big uptick's on the 10th as well as the 14th. So just recently coming in with the highest cosmic rays since August 29th, there at the Moscow neutron monitor. Lastly, we'll look at Oulu, which conveniently shows you the actual modern cosmic ray maximum, which happened here around 2009 and 2010. Anyway, there's the current situation there at Oulu, and we do see a recent upswing in both range of cosmic ray flux as well as maximum. I would note also you see a pretty big spike here at Oulu, Finland on the 29th of August. Let's also look at DOMC Antarctica, who's still sending data, and for that we thank you. Yes, I would recommend being able to shovel snow if you would like to winter in one of the like 5 people who winter in Antarctica. If you can't shovel snow, you probably have to be airlifted out, as the situation will grind to a halt if anybody stops shoveling snow. Believe it or not, folks. Of course, here at Vostok Base in the middle of the winter, we use our minds to melt the snow. Please do not tell anybody the technology behind our psychic snow melting features, as they're going to come in very handy since the globe is not warming. And there's DOMB Antarctica, sending back some data here, although no hourly data. Moving on to the mission. By the way, if you're not familiar, the Asho mission is to assist, study, and report on the ongoing formation of unified theory of physics, to raise the awareness of the general public of the fact that all your weather comes from space, not from carbon, to connect and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach, to demonstrate cutting-edge proof-of-concept solutions to problems, such as the tomatoes that we already have growing indoors, to publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, including sciences like spectroscopy, which is probably the most important one, especially in cosmology, folks. But also, and not limited to, sciences like chemistry, astrophysics, health, wellness, longevity, cosmology, etc. And another very important one, magnetohydrodynamics. Shout out to Neil Thompson. If you're watching the video, please leave a comment. We did share the electric view in our community posts, so please press the notifications bell while you're pressing like and subscribe underneath our videos if you enjoy the content. We also include in the mission to assist the humans. And no, we're not Ferengi. I'm not wearing a hat to cover up Ferengi ridges here or anything like that. But we're here to assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomena in order to do things like optimize value and reduce risk and liability and save lives and resources and adapt no matter what the adversity is, as we have the capability to adapt to anything, folks, including a Carrington event. And lastly, to not be ossified in our beliefs and to treat those who are with love, respect, and inclusion to the scientific discussion, as sometimes it takes people a long, long time for their brains to catch up with the cutting-edge science, especially how fast things are coming out nowadays during the Neo-Renaissance as astrophysics gets rewritten. If you enjoy the mission, please support the channel via Patreon, as YouTube/Google pays us nothing except a huge hassle and censorship. YouTube pays us nothing. If you're seeing advertisements, that's because this channel is monetized for YouTube and Google, not for us. You can also donate on PayPal. By the way, if you join the Patreon, don't join at the $1 level. That goes away on Halloween. Join at the $9.99 per month level to see our updates first, whether it's a coronal mass ejection or whether it's the newest video. Also, if you're in the market for CBDs, which I should be as my leg is all jacked up, although it's getting better. If I did fracture it, it's pretty minor, and I will be back to walking like a normal person by Sunday. But if you're in the market for CBDs, check out our Spaced Out campaign, which is linked below the video also. As they just did a little refurbishment there on the page, and there you go with the, let's see, the hemp seed oil suspension whole plant CBD is still on sale on selected strengths. Also, if you want the athlete-oriented, full-fledged Kalki products, there you have that. The certified THC-free stuff, as in some sports THC is illegal, and in some it's not. So if you're not familiar with how your sport works, now I'm a cyclist, so I have a fairly good understanding of how that works. Don't accidentally get disqualified from an event. And don't intentionally get disqualified from an event. And don't cheat at sports. Let's talk about the Wilcox Solar Observatory, in that we've left a link to this below the video. As our spaced out viewers are pretty in-depth into stuff like this, and some of our viewers are going to freak out about the fact that it's shaped like a pyramid. Please leave a comment if you think that there's some sort of a spooky energy field in there. And it's it must be the Eye of Sauron or something. Oh no, it's making a solar magnetogram. Oh, it's the Freemasons. They've taken over the world. Anyway, there's links to that below the video. Let's talk about David Dubine's book. And a small snippet. Step 2, focus on your personal cash flow. One of the key determining factors. Now we give a little bit of economic, financial, banking, geopolitical information on this channel, as it helps the people not be screwed by the stock market, for instance. Because I used to be a day trader, although I'm not licensed to give you investment advice. So don't treat anything we say as investment advice. But in any case, one of the key determining factors of who will be best placed to handle a severe economic Armageddon, where inflation is happening all around the world, and food shortages are at the same time, and tariffs are idiotically being applied by the U.S. government. Individuals can take steps to improve their cash flow, put money aside in precious metals, for instance. Now, we were telling people to buy silver when it was 14 bucks an ounce. Did you hear that message? Did you perhaps buy some silver? We like to buy silver for Christmas presents sometimes. Not in any weird way. Anyway, check out the book. Links to that below the video also. It's located at oilseedcrops.org. So when you're done becoming a Patreon, check that out. I think it's $12.95. And let's talk about some really bad prepping. Have you done any prepping? Do you have like a tote full of food? Beans, bullets, and Band-Aids, all that stuff? Do you have a hand crank radio and what's your level? Please leave a comment. Do you have a fully armored bunker with a fully outfitted tank and other bug out vehicles that the tank tows around, and have a armored rolling fortress? Let us know. Eating human flesh is the latest idiotic idea to stop climate change. And why is this being pushed, folks? Why is it being pushed? It's being pushed to reduce carbon emissions. One of the most idiotic ideas in the history of mankind. Probably the dumbest idea that people have done attempted to do on a large systemic basis. Where increasing carbon in the atmosphere would make plants grow better and not make the planet any warmer or cooler. But reducing it just makes plants grow worse. And I believe it's for centralization. The more I think about how idiotic these ideas are, I don't think there's a big conspiracy going on where every person in the government knows how stupid of an idea it is. But, I mean, carbon sequestration, don't even get me started, dudes. Anyway, I apologize for the tangential rant on carbon. But the truth is the truth. And I could care less who likes or doesn't like my telling the truth. The day I stop calling them like I see them is the day that I'm fired. Pardon my squeaky chair. If you're concerned about the human impact on Earth's climate, you could plant a tree, because people don't understand that trees also emit carbon after they consume the glucose that they use carbon to make. Anyway, your prepping could include riding a bike. I highly recommend that as a pro cyclist. You could install solar panels, or you could eat your dead relatives. Don't let that stack of meat compose. Put it to good use. Save a cow. Sequester your carbon into your own body. Shout out Christian Westbrook. Cover this one on your crop loss map. You talk about Soylent Green on the regs. Woo! Oh yeah. Let's check it out. Now, if you wondered why human composting services emerged in Washington State, wonder why human composting services emerged. I think maybe because they're trying to soften people up to eating humans. What do you think? Leave a comment. Anyway, it's actually a serious proposal. And I don't know if you're aware of the ScopeX program up at Harvard. Please tell your local congressman to have that defunded, at least by the federal government. Although it's not going to do any good. You know why? Because Harvard has billions of dollars of cash on hand, and they won't be able to be stopped even if the government defunds them. So good luck trying to stop the ScopeX program. I don't know if you're aware that that's the way it works, but newsflash, that's the way ScopeX works. Although we should probably try to tell our local legislators and state legislators and national legislators to have that shut down, as they're trying to basically simulate a volcanic eruption to put a bunch of particles in the air that will reflect the sun's rays. Yeah. Please leave a comment. Let us know how your last winter was, and if you think the planet's warming. And if you understand how to measure the temperature of the planet by measuring the temperature 3 meters deep in the ocean. Is that being measured? No. Nope. Anyway, if you want the full story, it's linked below the video. Some college professor, I believe, came up with this brilliant idea. Here you go. It's Magnus Sutherland. Magnus Sutherland is like, hey man, since we're seeing food shortages all around the world, let's start eating people for real. He advocates eating human flesh to combat climate change food shortages, yes. And then they're going to try to tell you that those climate change food shortages, when ice falls out of the sky and snow falls out of the sky and you get early winters and late springs for 3 years in a row, that the planet's warming, so get rid of that carbon. Plants aren't growing right. Get rid of that carbon. Plants grow optimally at 1,200 parts per million. We're at about 430 parts per million. You think we ought to really scrub the carbon out of the atmosphere, folks? We implore you to go out and burn a tire today, if it's legal where you're located. Please leave a comment if you've burned an old tire. Hey, maybe you can melt some aluminum and perform backyard scientific experiments demonstrating how you can melt steel. Yeah. He's not kidding. I don't know, maybe send this guy an email, and maybe if you'd like one of those robotic arms, hack off your arm, send it to this guy, and then maybe he'll eat your arm on a YouTube video like this one. Boy, did that get tangential. Let's look at some stuff that's a little more sane, like the solar wind data, which looks like a coronal hole magnetic connection there. Check it out, an ongoing one. Still no big earthquake. BTBZ is pretty convergent on the zero line. Solar wind density has just sprung up at the same time that the solar wind speed popped up. See that right there? Just the last 2 hours, folks. Literally while we did show prep. Probably that small coronal mass ejection that we're the only channel that happened to notice, apparently. Even NOAA did not see that coronal mass ejection. However, we covered it on our channel. It was covered. It was on the thumbnail. Go watch the video from 2 days ago. It also hit in the time frame that we forecasted. So cheers. ACE data is corroborative. Let's look at more stuff. KP is pegged at 2 for the last 6 hours, up from 1 due to that impact. And yes, it was a small coronal mass ejection, as forecasted. Magnetosphere movies won't get us to 1,400 subscribers. Nor will we celebrate 1,400 subscribers on YouTube. We will celebrate 1,400 patrons. Patreon patrons. When that happens, we'll celebrate 1,400 of those. Anyway, there's the density. Here's the magnetohydrodynamic pressure. 4 hours of it, courtesy of University of Michigan Geospace Model. Now, this is data you can't access the archive of yet. I assume eventually you probably will be able to, although by assuming, I try not to make an ass out of you or me, or the University of Michigan. Holla! Next, ground geospace magnetic perturbations. And there's 4 hours of that. Nothing too exciting going on there. You will see a small current spike there at the end. If you weren't aware that electrical current flows right through the planet, both ends, both directions, well, we're more than happy to inform you on this channel. We prefer for people to understand the distinction between their donkey and a hole in the ground. Moving on to more vulgarity-free data. And the ionosphere is all over the place. Very anomalous, especially on the nighttime side there. This is 6 hours of data here for the ionosphere. So if you're looking for weird ionospheric inputs on these same date stamps, you should be watching our videos every day. Cheers. And there's the latest image at 9 o'clock UT. Again, looking wobbly as heck on the nighttime side. We do see some oddities here in the X-ray flux, some precipitous drop-offs, as well as could be some missing data. I'm not sure if the lines are overlapping. No big deal. We looked at the X-ray imager. You saw what was going on with that. There's the electron flux, looking pretty basic here. Could see a sudden dip in that today, and the relativistic electrons at greater than 2 mega electron volts has dropped down a bit. Charging hazards are minimal and over Mexico and Central America. There's where stuff is in the solar system. Milky Way galaxy team for the win. And there's where stuff will be in 7 days. Goes magnetometer. Looking a little more normal here. Let's go look at the polarity of the current sheet. Here's the gong 2. And it looks like the South Pole has largely won that little magnetic tug-of-war that we saw. And that's happened in the last 18 hours. I still say there's a sunspot there. No, maybe not. But there is some activity rising. So in the next couple days, we will see at least some magnetic formations. And they're going to be right on the equator. And I'll forecast that they look like cycle 24 magnetic organizations. There's a star chart. Check out in-the-sky.org if you want to build one for yourself. For where you're located, I like to face mine south as my couch points that direction, and I like to put on the ecliptic. I don't know why. I just like to know where the ecliptic is in relation to where stars I'm seeing. Today's featured star is randomly just selected here for because of the magnitude. Capella. This Capella message brought to you by aliens from another universe. If you're viewing our videos from a different multiverse, universe, plane of existence, solar system, time, or perhaps a different galaxy, or if you're just in interstellar space, somehow viewing this video, please leave a comment, as we are interested in your thoughts on cosmology. Earthquake rundown, 4.7 at the Philippines. Is the oldest quake in the past 24 hours here. And that's, let's see, that one's happening almost exactly 24 hours ago, folks. 4.7 at the Philippines, near the surface. Let's keep this thing as short as possible and blast through the earthquakes. There's a 4.5 at Afghanistan. That one occurring more like 20 hours ago when this video was recorded, not live. Although we try to view them live. That's why we do the premiere feature. It's not just to annoy you. Anyway, that one's at depth, heads up, Afghanistan. 5.4 at the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. We've been seeing quakes there daily. We've been seeing quakes there daily. A 4.7 at Mexico. A 4.8. That one's at depth, at Dominica. Check it out. Pretty big quake there, pretty deep. Shout out Caribbean. Please have an earthquake plan, as that's a deep quake. 4.3 at Afghanistan. 90 kilometers depth. A 4.4 at Bolivia, right near where I would warn for a larger quake. As we see this ongoing 180-degree phi angle. And we're going to look at coronal holes at the end of the video, so stay tuned. And that's right there. That is the spot where I would be on maximum alert for an earthquake. This area right here, that is where I forecast the 7+ magnitude quake to hit eventually. I'm not saying today. This place has been on alert for weeks. And I'm not good enough at this stuff to look at things like ionospheric inputs. So we see a 5 there. And there's that Bolivian quake. Let me get back to the list here and move on, as we don't want this video to be too long. Here's a 5.4 at Tonga. I think that's the largest quake of the past 24. Possibly this one at the Reconnaissance Ridge. There's a 4.5. Okay, that's a 4.5 at the Reconnaissance Ridge. 5.1 at Indonesia. 5.0 at Argentina. That one at depth. 4.3 at extreme depth, Fiji. That one 540 kilometers. 4.4 at Turkey. 4.7 at Turkey. 4.6 at Chile. That one at nearly 100 kilometers also. So, uptick in small quakes and some extreme deep quakes once again. Volcano rundown includes Shivaluch, 15,000 foot plume there. Abico, 10,000 foot plume there. Mount Asho, 5,000 foot plume there. Dacono still exploding, 7,000 foot plume there. Revenador, 15,000 foot plume. Sabancaya, 25,000 foot ash plume. Sporadic emissions from Nevados de Chilean were at tens of thousands of feet. Please don't do the Fosbury flop over the caldera. Here's the stuff on Null School. We're looking at jet stream of the west. Extremely concentrated jet stream flows as well as meridional ones in the southern hemisphere. And a combination of meridional flow and not even a jet stream in the northern hemisphere, as we've been seeing for weeks. More like convective forces running the show up here. Please leave a comment if you're down there, as we've got quite a few viewers from places south of the equator, let's just say. Big folds in the jet stream there in the southern hemisphere. Once again, we see it doubled and tripled up down there. And that's equinox season, folks. That's equinox season. Here's the extremely high pressure 10 hectopascal winds. The upper level gear. That's what's going on in the south. I don't know if you were aware. Watch the Thunderbolts project video on it. As I don't have time to explain this, we got to keep this thing moving. And we do see some counter-rotation in the northern hemisphere. If you weren't aware, we're glad to inform you. Lightningmaps.org is highly recommended. The next time you hear thunder, it could save your bacon. Who knows? Pressure maps. We're looking at windy.com here, who has a great free mobile app, by the way. Iceland is getting hammered with rain and snow right now, as there's a low right on top of them. And here's where stuff will be in 24 hours, pressure-wise. At least 24 hours from when this video was shot. As again, it's not a live stream, folks. And guess what? South Carolina looks like it's getting spared from the disaster that was about to hit. 20 more inches of rain. It looks like it's not going to happen now. Shout out to AccuWeather. Here's the U.S. Doppler radar. Heads up, Burlington, Vermont. Bernie, if you're watching, you're going to get hit with a thunderstorm, bud. Here's a water vapor map. And I want to zoom in on this convergence here going on in the Gulf of Mexico, as it looks like, well, let's cut to it first. There you go. It looks like cosmic ray flux clouds at their finest. Look at the amount of water evaporating suddenly there. Now, of course, global warmists are going to say, that's hot air. That's caused by global warming right there. And yeah, I don't have a response for that, except that that's caused by extremely rapid changes in electrical potential. That's all I'll say, to avoid saying something that an electrical engineer will claim blasphemy. Anyway, the Earth's atmosphere is a semiconductor, folks, and it's mitigating electrical charge between inside the planet and outside in space. It's a giant Hall current transformer, just like the sun is. And let's zoom back out so you can get a little better idea of what I'm talking about here. All right, there's a little better view of the entire situation going on there. I would also note the sudden water vapor there appearing over the North Carolina South Carolina border. We're going to zoom in on that in a minute too, but this is a classic electrical situation going on here, as that dry massive air is conducting a lot more electricity than that wet air. And I'm not gonna get into the physics any more than that, as this video is already over 30 minutes. I am going to zoom in on that area over northern North Carolina, so everybody that understands the science here can get the proper graphics and the timestamps. Check out the water being yanked into the atmosphere in that area. I mean, that is classic. You want to hear about the sudden formation of things like clouds? Well, we're going to look at it in the shortwave animation also. Keep in mind, we get these kind of things just before the day-night Terminator, and it's not a coincidence. Oh boy. All right. Atmospheric physics level 300. So here's what the clouds would look like if you could see them. We use the NASA GOES shortwave radiation satellite to look at this at nighttime. And talk about a convergence line, folks. Jeez. Let's zoom in on that too. Talk about some sudden cloud formation, folks. Just resize that. There you go. Check out that convergence. Can you say massive change in electrical potential? Anybody? Anybody? Crickets? Cricket? Oh my gosh. Anyway, you want to talk about some sudden cloud formation. That is at its finest. Now, I left the date stamps on there. I'm going to zoom all the way in. This has got a 2-kilometer resolution, folks. It's not the highest resolution that there is, and it's not the most rapid scan. But I use this to remain consistent in my links. So, talk about some sudden cloud formation. There you have it. Again, South Carolina has been spared from the GFS forecast, at least. That 20 inches of rain is expected to fall in the ocean instead of on you. Stay tuned for another video, folks. This one is almost over. One bonus feature coming up. Just one. It's the last 8.5 hours of your local yellow dwarf and 193 angstroms wavelength. Again, there is some activity rising there. Whether it's a sunspot or not is up to you to guess in the comments. How about that? And this is an ongoing coronal hole magnetic connection that we're seeing here, as we see an ongoing, very near 180-degree phi angle. So, hey, have a disaster plan, be prepared for earthquakes, have a bug-out bag, be an asset, not a liability in the event of a disaster. When you're staring at the sun, don't drink it. If you drink, stare at the sun anyway, just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from your veins.